Hi, everyone. Looks like there's 13 people here. I'm Dr. Courtney. Thanks for hanging out. I'd love to know a little bit about you. So, are you here for Arcane? Where are you from? How old are you? Tell me where you are from. Hi. Hi, Rabbit Dog. How do you say it? Hello. Parzival? Let me know if I'm saying that right or wrong. Let me know how you guys are doing. Oh, good. That's great. Well, I'm here to talk about Arcane. So let's talk about it. I have a question, though I sadly won't be able to follow the live stream. Question of Heimerdinger and fortress mentality and the destructiveness of that. I'm Norwegian, 42 years old, here for Arcane. Glad you could host today. Awesome. Help me understand the question a little bit more with Heimerdinger and fortress mentality, hopefully before you go, and the destructiveness of that. Do you mean like he wants to protect the city above and beyond because he's lived for so much longer and sort of seen the destruction that can take place? Let me know. I did, before I came on here today, I went through all of the characters again. I also watched the mini trailer that they had for season 2. I know it's not a full trailer, but we heard by Caitlin and someone else's voice. So that's going to be interesting. And I also saw the recommendation to watch, what is it called? Bridging the Rift. I didn't know it was 5 episodes on YouTube. So I'll start watching that. And if you want me to react to it, then I'll put a poll in my community to see if you guys want. He seems to me to be stuck in an ultimate defensive mode. Yeah, and rejects anything that could challenge it out of hand. Yeah, I mean, I think he's defensive. Well, he's not human, right? But we're going to base it off of that because humans made the show. We get defensive for many reasons, either because we only believe that what we think is right, and that can be ego, that can be a narcissistic trait, or it could be because he really cares and he just has really seen the destruction. And I also wonder if maybe he's gone through so many cycles of people around him because he's lived so much longer that he's seen people's ideas sort of work out or not work out. And maybe he feels like he's developed more of a knowledge base of what should be done. He's also a professor, and professors do have a tendency to sort of get in their minds about their own theories, which we've also seen, not professor-wise, but through Jace and Victor too, to a degree. Enemy, the music video, if you haven't already. Yeah, I have not watched that. And I actually honestly didn't like the song too much by itself until I saw Arcane, and now I'm obsessed. Obsessed. I love it, which you might have noticed. Actually, I was dancing every time it came on, but I think we had to cut it because of copyright. Jinx, yes. Good evening, Samuel. Hi, Edward. I'm here for the discussion, but I don't know if I'll be able to chat much as I'm at work. I love to see you reacting to Bridging the Rift. Oh, good. There's a lot of mental health stuff to talk about. I love that. He seems to be collecting people's statues in his office, which doesn't seem entirely healthy. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back and take a look. Why? What are the statues of? I'm so curious. I think the "Do you consider death, Professor? Only that of friends" tells a lot about Heimerdinger. Yes. Well, I think he might have had to get over it. Yeah, like watching so many people pass over time. That's so interesting. Such an interesting character. I'm glad that they, didn't eliminate him and left him with Echo to sort of try to rebuild, because that's going to be pretty interesting. Well, what do you guys think? What do you think is going to happen in season 2? What questions do you have, Edward? I see you put Jinx. Let's talk about it. Tell me, what do you think? Also, I am going to dress up as Jinx for Halloween. I'm going to start looking into the costumes after. So you can expect me to probably go live or at least make some kind of video about it for you guys. They cannot remove them because he exists in the lore. Okay, actually, can I learn more about that? Are you open to that? I can answer any mental health questions that you have, but what is the lore? Okay, I need to know. I was looking it up more today, the League of Legends lore, and I just don't know what that means. This is my first animation series. So Help me learn. I'm so excited for season 2 and I want to know more. Let's see. I hope someone can somehow save or at least help Jinx a little. She desperately needs help. Hi, Jacqueline from Brazil. Upon your review of Arcane and its characters, are there things that you wanted to speak on in particular, either in how they were portrayed, how they were, just what are your faves? I love that. I mean, my favorite was Jinx, and that kind of goes into Michael's question. What do you think is Jinx's mentality? Jinx was really interesting. I think they did a really good job representing her character and how somebody can be like, okay, in mental health, we learn that there's precursors for certain mental health issues, whether it's just like personality or what you experienced in your childhood or even in your young adulthood. Everything gets blamed on childhood and parents, but it goes far into young adulthood and peer groups and everything as well. But I think that, the argument is, was she always Jinx because she sort of engaged in some of these more dangerous behaviors and, started having those panic attacks from that separation anxiety from Vi really young. But typically, if she was a person, I would say that they did a great job just showing that there can be subtle aspects of someone's personality that, based on how their environment reacts to those aspects of them, then they can develop into turning into a Jinx or not doing that. And we don't know what the not doing that would have been because she was so dismissed, which makes sense. That's a very unique environment that they live in, but she was dismissed for so long and in so many different ways that those subtle symptoms of anxiety or disorganized thought processes or the trauma that she experienced, and, she likely never processed that, all of those experiences watching her parents die. So that's going to turn into a dysregulated nervous system. It's going to turn into nightmares that could turn into hallucinations and delusions over time. So I thought that was pretty incredible. And they did a really, really, really good job explaining that. I loved her character. So she was my favorite. What are your guys' favorites? And then I can dive into what I think about them. Okay, let's see. Oh my goodness. This is going fast, but I love it. Okay. I love the LOL lore. Arcane is very different because it has so much lore behind it from the game. Piltover and Zon is only one city, country, and entire built world. Yeah, I'm excited about that. I was reading up and that they may start to introduce one of the new places in season 2 to be able to fade into that in season 3. I'm excited for that. And I don't know anything about the other worlds. So for me, it's all brand new. Did you realize that Jinx's voices stopped after she killed Silco and fully embraced Jinx? No, I didn't realize that because, no, I didn't realize that. That's interesting. And fully embraced Jinx. Yeah, we'll have to see how she acts in season 2. I'm probably going to go back and rewatch it. So I'm just like really crisp for you guys right before it comes out. I find a lot of my own struggles in Jinx, but I'm dealing with it a little more healthy. Well, yeah, that's good. You wouldn't want to really be shooting a chamber of councilmen and women. That wouldn't be healthy. Or attacking people or stapling your own leg or blowing everyone up with a bomb. So that's good. Oh, let's see. It's a big thing. Oh, amazing. I've been a longtime player and I dove deep into lore because of Arcane. I love that. This is so awesome. Okay. Jinx is amazing. I agree. That would have been amazing for her to get an Emmy for that. She did do an amazing job, Jack Lee. Jinx, for example, Heimerdinger is not as much against weapons. He owned an explosive shop with another Yordle for a time. Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, maybe he's more against them now. Maybe as a result of that. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. Jinx seems very dissociative to me. She seems to have space in her in-group for 1 or 2 people at most, and everyone else is an obstacle, target, or inconsequential. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I mean, she's definitely dissociative. She can go into states that she needs to when she's feeling distress, and that's really what dissociation is. But it's interesting that you note that her in-group of 1 or 2 people, and that happens a lot. When people are traumatized or they have severe anxiety or they have dissociation, whether it's a disorder or just tendencies, And there's no reconciliation of like the first people that they had relations with, whether it was their first partner or their parents or their siblings or their first peer group. If that doesn't get resolved, it can be very difficult for somebody to actually start to branch out their circle because they already don't know how to have close relationships. And you can kind of see that. I mean, she has close relationships, but they're very tumultuous and at times very dangerous, like her relationship with Silco. That makes a lot of sense. And I didn't actually talk about that in my reviews. I didn't notice that. So thank you for pointing that out. I totally agree with you. Hi, glad you're doing this. Okay, thank you. Oh my God, that's such a good question. You guys, these are good questions. Okay, let me see. Where did that one go? Okay, if you were at the tea party, how would you have handled it? That's such a good question. Okay, so like if I was there as a therapist, oh my God, I guess I'm taking it like that, right? Hmm. I actually don't think, well, I don't know. Vi was tied up, right? And Caitlin was tied up. Were they both there? And I mean, would I be tied up? Would I be forced there? Would she trust me enough to be supporting her in that moment? I think if I was tied up too, I would have maintained a very calm presence, which is for the most part, I think what Vi did from my memory. Mm, but she was raising her voice a lot. And I would be like, don't do that. That's not a good idea. Because you can see that that sort of set her off in a way and made her lose it. How would I have handled it? Let's say I wasn't tied up and I was in a support role. Like Jinx was willing to listen to me. I probably would have just, I'm a therapist. So I'm thinking, would I have assessed her mental state ahead of time and known what was going to happen? Would we have prepped for it? Or would I be walking in and understanding her symptoms on the back end, but not knowing what I was going to necessarily walk into? Hopefully, we would have a relationship and we would have like things that I could say or like know what worked for her and what didn't work for her. Like maybe not being near the tea party table for a while and helping her decompress, or at least getting her to agree to not get violent, which can be really difficult to do when you're in a certain mental state. But I think that that's where I would start. It's hard. Whenever I get questions that are sort of not rhetorical, but where the answer could be anything based on the variables, my mind just races with all the variables. Maybe that's a little bit of the ADHD in me, which I actually was recently diagnosed with. I don't know if any of you have ADHD as well, but I didn't know I had it, and now I do. Do you think that the show could have elaborated more on the effects that spending years in prison had on Vi? I felt like it got kind of glossed over. That is a really good point. And I think that, their theme, they had a huge mental health theme. I feel like they touched on it a little bit. I mean, the fact that she was let out on the basis of the fact that she just shouldn't have been in there was maybe one thing. And also, I think she says something when she's actually in the cell that implies that like she isn't being treated well. And so I think that was maybe their little bit of input into it. But I think it would have been good to go into it because if we're talking so much about trauma when it comes to Jinx's character, then it would sort of make sense to also talk. And we see how trauma plays out with Vi as well, just in a very different way. But that would have been nice to sort of elaborate on that and see if it changed her in any way. They maybe, could have added more character development to, even in the short term, how that may have affected her. Maybe a small conversation about it would have been great. Let's see. Any characters that their eventual development surprised you? That's a good question. Characters. I mean, Echo was pretty surprising. I think Echo, like, he sort of just kind of fell off of the storyline and then came back, and he had this like power within him based off of what he saw happen. I mean, being like the bar back or the assistant at the bar with Vander and then witnessing what he witnessed in the death in that alleyway. And then he comes out and he's in this, yeah, just action. And he's like down there trying to have this thriving environment for people, trying to be this keeper of peace and understanding and creating this huge mural with the people around him down there. I mean, that was pretty amazing. I didn't expect his character to develop the way that it did. And I'm curious, did you expect it? Is that part of the lore? And I really loved that. I loved that he ended up being a character that may be a huge contributor to peace or reconciliation to some degree, since now he's working with Heimerdinger. Unfortunately, I have not seen it, but I do want to. Jinx is my favorite, and then Silco or Vi. Samuel, tell me, I want to know more about the Silco part. So many people are so for him or against him. In the video archives from the game, it was clear that from Powder's diary that Powder killed all. Oh, and she is Jinx, not Powder. Vi said she's Jinx, not Powder. Vi hates Powder, but she's Jinx. That's interesting. Do I think Jinx is redeemable? Oh, message retracted. Yeah, I do. Well, we have to consider that I think there's like, they implied like a 6, 7, or 8 year gap between like her showing up later on in the series and then her in the beginning. So that's like 7 years of possible trauma and like furthered trauma. And so of course I think that she would be redeemable, but it would just take so long for that reprogramming to happen that she just have to be really consistent and really have an environment that would contribute to her growth, like long term, and an environment that would prepare for like relapses in behavior. Because if you don't have an environment that's ready for that, then it's easier to fall back into those old patterns. So I think it's possible her repairing with Vi would be huge. It wouldn't be necessary for her to be redeemable and to find whoever she really wants to be. But I think like that would be the best case scenario in the beginning. I like that, the Powder Jinx dichotomy, that we can't revert back to being, I said in one of my reviews that she can't go from being Jinx back to being Powder. You just can't undo that type of experience. You remember it. And even if you were to undergo some type of amnesia, your body would remember it and your brain would still have those pathways depending upon what ended up happening to you for the amnesia. So it is really sad. That is a sad understanding. It's not even that she could have sat in the seat that said Powder instead of the seat that said Jinx. It's that even if she sat in the seat that said Powder, she wouldn't go back to being Powder. She could call herself Powder and start working on undoing her dangerous or destructive habits, but she wouldn't ever really go back to being that. And that is really sad. And that's part of why things like violence on children and just violence on anyone and trauma that anyone experiences, it's so devastating because it really just changes you. Do you think Jinx's trauma can cause her to alter her memories? Because in the Enemy music video, there's extra footage and you can see Vi being violent before the incident. Before what incident? But in general, can trauma cause her to alter her memories? So this is the thing. And this is actually part of what's so difficult in legal cases is trauma can have you either have like a perfect memory of what happened, an altered memory of what happened, or no memory of what happened. And even if you feel as though you have a perfect memory of what happened, your perspective will always be your perspective. It could be totally accurate, but it will also always be from your eyes and your body and your experiences. So, and they use that all the time in legal cases inappropriately to not charge people that should be charged because they say, oh, how would they know, which is terrible. But trauma can alter memories. And so, and long-term too. So they can build up and then be misconstrued. So if you have trauma from someone or someone was there during a traumatic experience, and then you start to continue to have a negative relationship with them, then you can start to see, like, you can start to twist like, oh, well, maybe they did do something wrong in this situation. Because time goes by and it gets mixed up with all these other memories and feelings. the brain is really tricky, and we do our best to sort it out when I'm trying to work with clients, and hopefully the truth comes out in legal cases. And I relate it to that just because trauma and memory is so big in those types of situations. Sarah, my favorite is definitely Vi. She's a brave girl and my personal hero. She's not perfect, but that makes her so human, but she stands up for her beliefs and loved ones. I love that. She does. She does do that. And she had from the beginning, even like catching Powder so she didn't fall off the building in the first episode and trying to protect her as much as she can. I think that for Vi, the biggest thing for her in season 2 that I anticipate is like, is she going to okay, so let's say that they find out that it was Jinx, whatever ends up happening with the council people in the chamber. If they find out that it's Jinx, then more people are going to be wanting to make her pay for that. Caitlyn, if her mom dies, Jace, if Medarda dies, and then will Vi stay teamed up with them and just go to sort of demolish and destroy Jinx, or will she go on her own path and just try to like save Jinx from making more choices that would make somebody try to take her out? So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Vi, maybe even in episode 1 of season 2, which I can't wait for. Hi, I'm so glad you came on over here from Instagram. Adela, Samuel, FYI, Heimer is so much against Hex Tech because he was around when the Rune Wars happened. Yeah, right. And he kind of hints at that a lot. Like, I know it can happen. And they show that image. I don't know what that image is, but they show it where there's like a person in a beam, and they flash back to that when he talks about it being really dangerous and that there needs to be more protection around it. Oh, bye. Thanks for watching later. Oh, they probably already left. I'm like, bye. They're like, said they left 5 minutes ago. I hope we get Swain at some point of the series. One of my favorite champs in the game and one of the leader of Noxus, where Mel is from. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm excited to learn about new characters that I don't know of yet. Hey, just got here. Hi, thanks for hanging out. There will probably have to be another time jump for next season. Yes, yes. Yeah, okay. A lot of little mentions to Vi's prison trauma. Yes, exactly. That's what she says. Thank you for remembering that. Can you just send in whoever's going to beat me? Yes, exactly. Did you ever think about what happens when you lock someone inside a concrete box? Amazing. Yeah, I thought that they said a couple things in there. I'm glad that they did. They have so many touch points on mental health, society, culture, interpersonal development. It's a beautiful series in so many ways. Is extremely tight tuned. Yeah, exactly. Stuff for interpretation. They couldn't really dive into everything. That makes sense. I agree with you. I don't think they're different entities. She just grew up. Yeah, that makes sense. Ooh, in Vi's place at the tea party. If I was Vi, okay, I want you guys to answer too. What would you have done at the tea party if you were Vi? Put it in the comments and give me a second to think about it. I'm kind of like trying to remember that one. I was very like, oh my God. So actually the memory is not that great for me. I don't know if she was tied up or not. I think she kind of did the best that she could, because we have to consider if we were Vi, we would have been Vi. We would have had her experiences, been looking in front of our sister, like had the sister do everything that she did to the people that we love, So like, what state of mind would we be in ultimately? I think we can really only assume. But I would say that she did everything that she could have done right in that moment based off how she was probably feeling or how they were making her feel. But if I was Vi mixed with me, I definitely would have tried to be more calm. I wouldn't have raised my voice, and I would have tried to not say things that I think could have triggered her. Like, I think in one of my videos, I said, like, if you start to say or bring up the past while trying to make someone feel better, you may ultimately trigger them into just remembering that past, like what happened when they were so close. Vi and Jinx were so close to reconnecting, and then she started having all of those hallucinations or those flashbacks or those voices, And then she just went straight back to violence because she was triggered again and got those memories back of what was happening, and she hadn't processed them. And it wasn't a good place to bring those things back up for her. And Vander, he had his flaws, but he loved his girls. Yeah, Vander was incredible. I definitely teared up when he passed away. That was really, really, really sad. When he lectured Vi, I thought he could have taught me a lot. I love that. My nephew has ADHD. Would I want to look more into the world outside of Arcane? Absolutely. If there are any other like shows that I should watch, I don't know if this is the first one that's been an actual series outside of the League of Legends, but let me know. I used to be super into this type of stuff when I was younger, and then I spent 15 years studying psychology, so I didn't really have time. Do you think Mel was manipulating Jace to her advantage, or was there real love from her to him? That's a great question, Sarah. I've thought about that. In the beginning, and I think I said something too, where I was like, it seems like she's sort of, manipulating him with sexuality to have him veer one way or another for the benefit of the politicians or whatever the councilman would want to have happen, right, with these new developments that they could have made with Hex Tech. But then later on, we see the relationship that Mel has with her mom, and that her mom is much more infused into like the political game. And Mel is not really for that. And, it's not, she wants things to be different. She wants more peace versus more war. So I think, maybe there was like a little mix of both, and that could be the case, or, we'll never really know, but it is possible for both to be taking place, where she's coming heartfelt because she finds Jace as a potential partner and also sees a benefit, which isn't the best thing. But that could be the case. It's hard to tell. I wonder if we'll see at least Jace's perspective on what he thinks about the situation if she ends up dying based off of the finale of season 1. Assuming Singed will appear a lot more in season 2, what do you think they would develop him? Also, do you think he's psychotic? Well, I wouldn't use the term psychotic, but I know what you're saying. And I don't know. I mean, being isolated for as long as he's been isolated, and like he's removed and then removed again, spending so much time alone, let alone being isolated in far away from most people, I think that definitely is going to play a role in just his mentality and the way that he sees the world. When he was first developing the shimmer, it's like, I think he was doing it for a good reason, right? Or he was thinking that he was doing it for a good reason to try to save. I don't know, that animal. I don't remember what that thing was, the big lizard thing. So it's hard to tell. How do I think that they'll develop him? I mean, it'd be great just to hear more of his perspective and his mentality. Like, what does he see what's happening with his creation? Does he understand the destruction that it's causing? What does he think it's benefiting or not benefiting? That I would love to know what he thinks about that. Have I addressed Vi's inability to adapt to her different sister? Also, if there was a problem, she could punch her way out if she couldn't handle it. Inability to adapt to her different sister. I think that what's hard is that this new adaptation of her sister caused so much pain. I think that plays a big, big, big part in it. If Jinx was just out creating all of this destruction in a way where it didn't affect Vi personally, other than her sister being at risk, I think it would be a lot easier for Vi to accept it and try to work with it. But I think it's really scary for her because she's seen the power that Jinx has and how that could literally take away the life of people that she loves. I also think that she feels maybe some guilt. And so that might make it hard for her to truly accept that also, because she feels as though she played a role in what happened. And Jinx says that she played a role in what happened. And so that ultimately makes somebody get defensive unconsciously. It just happens because it's like, wait, what do you mean? Like, I want to help you. And now you're saying I'm the problem. So it could be like an ego defense protection. It could also be a protection. Like, I don't want things worse for you. So I'm going to keep my distance at the same time of, trying to pull you back in also. So I think maybe that would be two of the reasons why. No, I don't think she is redeemable. Hey, just got here. Oh my gosh, you guys, okay, let me read through these. People judge Vi for her actions, but forget to consider, yes, that she spent 7 years locked in a stone box. Exactly, exactly. All Jinx wanted to hear. I love this live stream. Thank you. Oh, thanks. Reading bedtime stories. That's pretty cool. I like that. Thank you. Okay. Ooh, you guys are saying such great things. I found it interesting that Jinx only told her voices to shut up when she was looking at Vi. I thought it had some interesting implications on how Jinx views Vi in her childhood. What's your take? I think that that's a great point. My take on that would be when she's not around Vi, she feels far more like Jinx, and those voices, as much as they're disturbing to her, are also a large part of just Jinx's overall experience. That she, became Jinx after developing these symptoms. And I think that when she's standing in front of Vi or looking at Vi, she wants to feel like she can go back and really connect with Vi in that way. And so I think she's like, come on, trauma, put me to the like go to the back burner for a second so I can just try to see if this is even safe, if this is even real, because she says that too. Is this real? She knows that her hallucinations are not real, and she wants clarity, in my opinion. Are you real? Like, what is going on? Right. So I think that might have something to do with it. What do you think? Avatar: The Last Airbender is a great show. I loved the first Avatar, but I haven't seen that one. I should. Yes, I think that "Are you real" is the most heartbreaking line in the show. Yes, I would have assured that Caitlyn wasn't a replacement. That's really, really good. Absolutely. And I think, has Vi not done that at all? I feel like she said something like that, or actually maybe that was just in Jinx's head because of Savika and Silco. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Ooh, there's a ton of 3 to 5 minute cinematics. Oh, not much story though. Cool. What do you think of the scenes with Jinx and Silco interacting were so uncomfortable to watch in some cases? Yeah, some of it was uncomfortable. I think it led to why people had some assumptions that they had like a romantic relationship when they didn't. You know, I think that Jinx didn't have a good interpretation of like intimacy or like parental relationships. And I think that she was balancing this parental figure with also this like partner figure, not romantic partner, but just partners in their decisions that they wanted to make. And so I think that it became messy and weird and overwhelming, and yeah, definitely uncomfortable. I also think that it's sad for some people to see that, like, we know where Jinx originally started. We saw Powder grow up and we saw the devastating things that she went through. And then to see her attached to someone who really is building love for her and sense of a daughter, but also is like exposing her to so many dangerous situations and not really helping her reconcile her trauma, just kind of making her use her trauma in her own mind as a precursor to weaponize her emotions. I think that was, maybe uncomfortable and sad too, because it was just like she has no insight into this relationship and they're so infused in it. And so I think maybe that was what made it uncomfortable. Did it make you uncomfortable? And what do you think about it? Let's see. I love this live stream. Oh yeah, thank you. Would you ever analyze House of the Dragon character? That show is so good. I am watching it, and every show that I watch, I psychoanalyze because I can't help it. And it's my job, right? I come on here for you guys. And I also have a Snapchat show called Therapist Reacts on their Discover page. And so, like, my entire job is analyzing celebrities and what they say about their mental health and then characters. So I'm in. Maybe we should do a poll. I can tell that you love it, right? I don't know how to say that username, but I'm pretty sure it's from the other show, right? I was going to try it, but I'm not. Arcane is the first show. I'd love to see your take on this story. Oh, thought about reacting to Sandman. Oh, it is? It's up there with Arcane? Maybe I should. Okay, I should do a poll. I'll do a poll after this and we'll see. Everyone abandons us, Jinx. I am your family now. Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's like Silco had this unresolved trauma of Vander, his brother, leaving him. Jinx had the trauma of her sister, from her perspective, leaving her. So it's, ooh, now there's somebody that has a similar trauma as me, and maybe he's never met somebody with a similar trauma. And now we can be together. We can try to resolve and get back at these people who harmed us. And now he has another partner that is more aligned with his goals than Vander was. And that was their big separation. Well, they'll let the long journey to the Avatar world begin. I love that. Kindred. This is really cool. How many characters are there? My favorite is also Silco. I think he has good intentions, and without him, the Undercity wouldn't have had a chance of independence at all. He's sacrificing a lot because he's looking at the big picture. I see that too. That he wanted justice and he wanted a nation of Zon. And I think that it makes sense that he would want that. I think he did have healthy expectations and goals in the beginning. The problem is I think he was viewed negatively for a long time, and that contributed to him going down more negative decisions that sort of made him into the villain and protective sort of the shimmer world and engaging in like those exports. And but you do the things that you have to do. If you're under the Undercity, then you really only have so much ability to engage in things that are considered more societally appropriate, right? And so I think he just got a little damaged. His goal got damaged and mixed up with what you would expect to see at the very, very bottom of society when they're completely ignored, right? And only have to take care of themselves completely. Being blamed for something that happened to someone is mental torture, the fight of my life. Yes. It's so hard. It's so hard, especially if you take that in, you take in their word and you find it difficult because you care so much and you're a person to just say, no, not at all. Even if no, not at all, it's like until they tell you like, okay, actually you're right. I don't think that. It's so hurtful because even if it sucks to live in a world or even be around people that don't feel that way. And then you have to be exposed to this aspect of reality, this other person's reality, and when you don't deserve it. So I'm sorry. I loved Arcane. Oh, 150 characters? Whoa. Is this just going to be my new career? Should we just create a community and dive into all of them? Because that actually sounds really amazing. If they all have storylines that are digestible and can be picked apart by a mental health professional. Like I said before, Arcane is only the tip of the iceberg. Wow. It's astounding. Ooh, I think Vi has become sort of parentified for Powder rather than being a sister. What do you think? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that Powder was looking for a sibling. Powder was looking for someone to include her, to see her. And like we know with many parents, it's difficult to do that as a parent. And Vi did take on that parental role. And so she felt like she needed to tell Powder what was right and what was wrong and to protect her. And that created a divide. Powder was very reliant on Vi, and Vi was very reliant on protecting Powder. She is younger, but I think that that really applies. I think that that's right. And I think that that's really sad for Vi too, to have to fall into that role at such a young age. And then after Vander died, having to feel as though now she and everybody else that Vander took care of died. Now she feels like she has to go and search as this mother figure for Jinx. And I don't think Jinx is having it, because I think that Vi's still trying to control her and not just connect with her in a way. That's really sad. It's survival, adapting to the person you are made out to be. Exactly, exactly. Jinx was an extreme version of this. Exactly. And Vi even says, I should have never called you that. And I wonder how many people have people in their lives that eventually apologize for saying something or that thing that caused you to change what you felt about yourself. And it can happen in so many different situations. It can happen if you're bullied at school and someone says something about your appearance that's, you can change your appearance in any way these days, but like that's unchangeable for X amount of years or ever if you don't want to. But you'll always just remember that that one person said that one thing, and it can lead you to being self-conscious. And it can go as far as your entire identity is this. This is what I think about you. And I'm the one person that you care about what I think about you. It's so devastating. I've had so many clients that remember like 1, 2, or 3 things that their parents said to them when they were younger, or that their bully said to them when they were younger, that they still remember. And once we go that far back, we realize that it's fueled what they wear, what they say, who they date, how much they think they're capable of. It's really, really sad. We do not realize what we can do to other people until we realize it or until something happens to us and we realize the effects of it. There are a lot of fans waiting for Echo and Jinx to have a romantic relationship. Do you think that's possible, considering everything Jinx did while being manipulated by Silco? I didn't know that there was like a thing between them. I know that they were like childhood friends, or maybe I was just reading that it was being anticipated that there would be a thing. But there definitely was a level of respect of like, I think I said in my review, like that they realized like we are battling the same thing internally, but obviously in many different ways. I would be impressed to see if they could, like, okay, if I think in terms of real people, absolutely. I think that people can find similar values, people can improve in their interpersonal communication. I think their symptoms can decrease. And I think that having somebody like Echo that Jinx has had such a positive relationship with in the past could be really beneficial. When I think about Arcane, I think it'd be very, very interesting to see if they could create a storyline and an arc for both of them individually that led them to connecting before the season is over. It would be beautiful if that was the case. I'd like to see if they can do that. Would you ever consider watching something like Steven Universe or Adventure Time? Okay, I don't know what those are. So this is what I mean when I'm like, this was my first animation and I fell in love with the characters and the world that they presented. So anything that's like this, it's really fueling me and I love it. I love it a lot. So I'm going to write all this down in my brain and then I'll probably post a community thing and ask you all in case I don't remember, but I need to look into all of this because I really love it. Let's see. Oh, Adventure. Okay, you guys know AT Adventure Time. The other league don't have enough story currently. The game is not story driven. Okay, that makes sense. I wonder if they'll ever come together as sisters again. I could see that happening. I hope it happens. I mean, I've had personal experience of that happening in my family, and I've had that happen with the client that would get my client that would be perceived as the jinx in the family, right? And then like them reconnecting in family therapy on a level that they never thought that they would, even in just the first session. It's like they just needed a safe place, and for the person who is experiencing distressing symptoms to have a reduction in them enough to just see each other again for like an hour, like, and not like just see each other in person, like see each other. And like Jinx and Vi were so close to doing that in that moment. Oh, right before that incredible animation took place where where Clagger and Milo spun around her and then she sort of lost it again, but so close. So close. What do you think about Milo and Clagger? I think being the middle child or the least favorite average child can be very difficult. Yeah, I guess I'm assuming that they were all like foster kids for Vander, and that Milo and Clagger didn't have their own family. Like I wasn't sure if they just like came to hang out with Vi and Powder or if they just like lived there as well, because they didn't show too much of that space that they were always in down there. But I do think that it was really interesting, the relationship that they both had with Vi, or at least what Milo had with Vi, and the things that he would say about Powder, like, you know, like not wanting her to get in the way or that they could get things done faster if she wasn't around. I think obviously that showed some of his discomfort and his like, oh my God, like I can't, what I have to say also be recognized, or no, you two just have like, and of course they're sisters and they weren't, I think they weren't related. But I think that, you know, in a way they were all a family at that point. And so maybe he felt like, why am I not being listened to at all? Like obviously there is destruction that happens. And so, yeah, not feeling like he had a voice might have been part of it. I just want to say I love your takes on Arcane. What do you think of the portrayal of Vi's parentification? Yeah, I just went over that a little bit for sure. But I think, and something to say too, is sometimes older siblings can get placed in the parentification role just like because they're older. But I think the experience that Vi and Powder had of traumatically seeing their parents die would kick in even sooner, this idea of being a parent now for your younger sibling. And we can see in the first episode too that Powder was very emotional and was crying and was looking up at Vi, and Vi was not emotional. And I think that was sort of where it started. I mean, she was in shock, I think, but she didn't have that innocent, fearful look on her face that they created for Powder when they showed Vi. It was more like she was already headed straight down the path for retaliation. Would you watch anime? Okay, so my creative director, she's also my cousin. She I think loves anime, and I'm actually very intrigued. So I think this is a world of anime and League of Legends and these animation series that I could find like a lot of interest in and a lot of fun in, mixing in these mental health concepts. And so I'm in. I mean, when I was growing up, I did like, please, maybe this is stupid, but I'm going to say it. Like I used to do like go to Toys R Us and I would be in like Pokemon competitions and I would like kick ass and I would win in Yu-Gi-Oh competitions. I was obsessed with that when I was really, really young. And I found a lot of pleasure in like immersing myself in these worlds, which I think is why I'm so in love with Arcane, because it feels like another world. I also played Final Fantasy a lot when I was growing up with my uncle that I lived with. So I might really get into it. The reason why I think those things fell to the wayside for me was that I started using substances at like 13, which is why I owned a rehab for so long in my clinical experience. So I kind of pulled away from anything like this. And then from 13 to 17, 18, that was my life, substances. And then I went straight to changing and turning my life around and studying psychology. So this feels like a return after going to school for so long and finally coming back into this, just this space. It fills my heart and it feels really good. So I would totally be open to it. Which Final Fantasy? Okay, I think 7. Sharpening knives, don't hate me. I'm pretty sure that it was 7. Okay. Now I'm like nervous. Oh, I'll allow it. Amazing. Okay. Oh no, I don't want to miss anything. Yes, exactly. The way Powder and Echo looked at one another as she released the grenade. That was when I was like, "Oh no, you guys know, you know that you're still you. You're still who you were when you were children and playing with each other." I was interested and surprised by your reaction to Marcus. I've seen a lot of people reacting negatively to his characters and happy when he died. So your reaction was definitely different than most. Yeah, I think for me, I really paid attention to, like, I wanted to know the underlying motives, right? Like, he seemed like an a-hole. And a lot of the decisions that he was making, being manipulative and acting like it was someone else that was doing these things when it was him. I just think they really, to me, did a good job, and I held on to it pretty tightly when they showed the human side of him, when they showed him looking down at his daughter, and when they showed the fear that he had when Silco was in his daughter's room. And for me, like, and then I think maybe doesn't he say something like, "Tell my daughter something," right before he dies? And so I just I think that there's good in each person, and I'm sad about the fact that he was wrapped up in everything he was wrapped up and made the choices that he made, and those were not good choices. And but it also, his heart died, the part that loved his daughter, and his daughter, I don't know what will happen. That's just that's devastating to me. It makes me emotional to even think about right now. So maybe it's just because I'm a therapist, but I couldn't help but feel sad because they showed a part of him that was caring. So attached to these characters. Oh, if you look at the roster, it will spoil where the series is going. Knowing who must live ruins it a bit. Oh, that makes sense. I'm gonna not do that. But then maybe I should, because then people will be like, "You're wrong." If like my first reaction is like, "You're wrong. You haven't seen the roster." My favorite callback in the show is when Jinx calls back to her and Vi's childhood game of creating monsters by asking Vi, "Make her go away, please," about Kaylin. Oh, yes, as if she was one of the monsters. Yeah, actually, now I remember, and the way that she says it too is like childlike. Oh, you're healing your inner teen. I have so many recommendations. I love that. Virtual hugs. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for saying thank you. That's very nice. Most people don't bother sympathizing with him. Yeah, I think, well, mm, I think most people go into shows in general, and maybe it's different with this anime series because just character development is so much easier, in my opinion. But like, I think a lot of people go into shows like wanting to love and hate characters easier than in real life because it's kind of like a permission to do that. It's permission to feel that way when you wouldn't actually feel that way in real life, or like you wouldn't actually like be so open and honest, like F that character, I'm glad that they died or something. Um, yeah, I don't know. And I think for me, the way that I'm analyzing it is like, I want to really bring in human behavior and the psychological concepts. And so I'm really really honed in on that, which I think it leads me towards being capable of having more sympathy or empathy for each character. He says, "Tell my daughter yes," and does not get to finish it. Yes, that's when I was like, no, it made me really sad because anybody in that moment, like, that's just devastating. Oh, I don't know. We got to move on. I'm getting sad from it. Would you react to artists like Juice World and Little Peep? And I never know how to say that. X Okay. And the other person. Yeah. Um, I know about Juice World. I watched the documentary or the series. I have a younger brother-in-law who was so devastated by the death of Little Peep. And I don't know too much about the XXX person. I don't want to say it wrong, but I think there's a documentary about that too. And I haven't watched it yet. Um, and I've thought about at least reacting to Juice World because I watched the whole thing and it was fascinating. Fascinating what they showed about his experience, and even then just reflecting on his lyrics, and that he knew that this was going to happen. And I think he even said it. He's like, I know that I'm going to like overdose and die. And it's just absolutely devastating, especially being somebody that specializes in co-occurring disorders for substance use and mental health. And clearly in each of these situations, I think there was both of those interacting and caused what happened. Um, so maybe. I just know for me, it's really touchy to give an opinion on somebody's mental health. I mean, I could comment on stuff that they said on their own, but it's hard to, especially when I know that they've passed away, and it's like there's the family, and like, do I analyze somebody that's already passed away? Like, is that appropriate? And so those are I really try to be as ethical as I can. So those are the things that come up for me, but I have been thinking about it because I think I could provide some support mental health wise um, to their stories. Let's see. AOT would blow. Wait, what is it? What is AOT? Oh yeah, thumbs up the video, fam. Thank you so much. That's so nice. You guys know I'm still new to YouTube, so I don't know how to say all those things, do all those things. I'm just here to hang out with you. Those monsters are drawn on the walls when Vi and Caitlin are in the deep undercity in Vi and Powder's old place just before Silco shows up and Vi punches the tower down. Yeah, I think a lot of people want Arcane to have a villain and it doesn't really have one. Yeah, see, that's so interesting because even Silco, who was portrayed as one of the main villains, it says like, is there anything more undoing than a daughter? And that's like, showing what is something showing more of his humanity too, right? And like he sits there and he's like talking to Vander, like this person that he like didn't mind dying, but that he, obviously had love for still, or at least respect for still, to go and sit and have a conversation with his statue to process what was happening. Sidetrack, but I love your lipstick color. Okay, I'll infuse that in there. It's Maybelline Super Stay lipstick. Maybelline Super Stay matte number 50. So I get asked that all the time. I don't know why they don't sponsor me. This is the only lipstick I've worn for 3 years, being the Truth Doctor, but they won't get back to me. But I always promote them because that's it. Thank you for saying that. Would you like a second season of Arcane? I want one, but at the same time, I'm satisfied by the season 1 finale. You're satisfied by the season 1 finale? Oh my God, I am not. I want to know what happens. I need to know what happens. I feel like, oh my God, yeah, no, I can't wait for it. Am I excited to be overwhelmed and shocked every week for 9 weeks? Oh no, I guess we'll binge the 3 episodes if they do that in the same way again. No, my nervous system is like up and down and up and down, but it's worth it. So I think it's fun. I'm excited for it. I know it's going to make me cry. I can't watch. Oh, okay. I have 1 more minute left and then I have to get off because I have other things that I need to do. So let me see. Okay. Don't cry. You're perfect. Silco was so heartbreaking. Yes. I'm going to leave it at that, I think. I'm going to leave it at that. There is so much humanity in this show. There are so many mental health concepts, and they really do an excellent job at showcasing interpersonal conflict, parentification, trauma, psychosis, grudges, resentment, retaliation, love, reality, kindness, and goodness behind people that are supposed to be seen as the villain. It's It's a beautiful, beautiful show. And thank you all so much for being here with me and for being a part of the Truth Doctor show and for subscribing. Um, it means a lot. It means a lot to me. I have a lot of mental health issues also, one of them being really intense anxiety. And I don't have a big circle outside of here just because my nervous system functions better inside, indoors, by myself, really. So you guys are so much to me. Thank you so much for being here. And I think we have a video coming out soon. So hopefully you'll watch it. Have a great day. Bye.